In this video, I'm going to be covering scaffolding in the training and development context, explaining what it is. I'm going to give some examples from my own teaching practices, including some reference to assignments. And finally, I'm going to talk about micro-credentialing and badging since I use these as part of the scaffolding process. So if this is something you're interested, stick around for this video. Recently, I attended the National Communication Association conference, and I was on a panel in the Training and Development Division with some really top-notch scholars and practitioners. What we were talking about is synchronous and asynchronous online teaching strategies or training strategies. And this is a presentation that I gave, slightly modified because there it was virtual and we were doing it in a Zoom call, and I was actually using the program Kahoot. If you are not familiar with it, great product to check out. But I was doing some engagements and so forth, and it was a much shorter presentation. So I'm going to expand a little bit on it in this video, and hopefully it'll be something that you will find useful. Now, if this is already something that is sort of appealing to you, go ahead and hit that like button now because it will tell the algorithm to recommend this video and topic to others with similar interest, and I would greatly appreciate that. If this is your first time visiting, welcome to this channel. And second, if you are returning, I'm glad to have you back. Let's get started. All right, so the first question I think is, what is scaffolding? And scaffolding is drawn from the analogy of building. So it's basically the idea of those scaffolds that are outside of a building, maybe when someone's painting or they're building a building, and as it goes up, you add more scaffolds so you can get higher and higher. So you start with a foundation, obviously, and then you build up. Sticking with that analogy, one great thing is that you can also think about removing that structure and being inside the building once it sort of is built enough and doing the interior decorating or whatever it might be. So a scaffold is essentially that, and in training development it draws from that analogy to suggest to people that when you are designing trainings or courses for learners, that you want to provide them the sort of safety that is required for them to accomplish tasks, beginning with a foundation and then sort of moving up to higher and higher level skills or knowledge. Now, obviously, you can remove that scaffolding once the learners are already comfortable or safe in the higher levels, to stick with that analogy. If you are still sort of wondering like how a subject matter expert might develop a training or a teaching scenario using that, let's go back to a very basic sort of example, and that is of riding or teaching a bicycle. Most of us have learned how to ride a bicycle, or we have taught others to ride a bicycle. And of course, when you are teaching somebody how to ride a bicycle, especially if it's a child, but in any case, you want to check the bike and make sure it's safe. You want to provide them a helmet. In other words, give them a safe context, safe equipment in which to do the learning. Once you have that, you want to make sure that the device that they're learning with or on, or how they're doing it, is safe. So you might start with some training wheels. And then once they get comfortable sort of on the bike and doing the things that are the motions that are needed on the bike, you remove the training wheels and then guide them along so they get a better sense of balance as they're sort of going along, until eventually they have enough balance and you can release that hand and they go on and do it. Now, of course, one thing that a child might need to know, because they might not like falling and getting hurt, is to remind them that this will lead to something at the end, such as freedom, the ability to go and meet with your friends, to get from A to B a little bit more easily or quicker. So explaining this to children can be very helpful. Once they learn enough, though, obviously, they might get with their friends and they'll teach each other, different ways to decorate the bike, different ways to ride the bike. They might take up different disciplines. They just aren't going to the store. Now they're doing it for exercise. Now they're doing it for competition. Some like mountain bikes, some like gravel bikes, some like road bike. I mean, it varies, but you get the sense then that there's a social learning aspect, but it's better if everybody has been taught sort of the safety protocols, also the sort of techniques, and can all do it. So that's the ultimate scenario for socialized learning. So that's the basics of scaffolding, and I think most of you are likely already doing this just intuitively in your classrooms. But if you're more deliberate about it, you can actually do some pretty cool things, which is where I'll explain here in a moment. So just to highlight again some of the components of scaffolding that I've hit on, but also a few others, is that you want to immerse the learners in the experience. It would make no sense, for example, just to explain to a child how to ride a bike. You wouldn't pull up PowerPoints and show them. You would take them outside, get them on the bike, immerse them in the learning experience. In the course that I'm going to explain in business communication, they are immersed in the experience of having to need emotional intelligence. So we teach them that, but they're also doing it. and applying it. And if needed, we remind them, hey, don't get stressed out, practice emotional intelligence, this very valuable skill set that employers are looking for. So we explain to them why it's important to do that, which is the third item there. The second item is that you want to push them at the edge of their skills, but not too much. If you push them too much, it's no fun. If you push them too little, it's no fun. So you want to try to have fun in learning, pushing them at the levels of their skill, removing the scaffolding when needed. So again, you wouldn't just put a child out there and without training wheels, you would give them that. In the context of our classroom, when we're teaching them, for example, public speaking, we give them examples to draw upon before we remove the examples and have them do it themselves. So maybe the topic will change from the first one where they were given an example, and the second one, they have to do it on their own, develop the topic, develop the research, whatever it might be. But teaching them how to do those things slowly over time, rather than just assuming, for example, which I think a lot of instructors do, that every student knows how to write an essay or a speech of a certain type. You need to coach them up towards that ability. Okay, so that kind of gives you an example of that. Now, the fourth one is you want to curate specific and accessible support and learning resources. So, for example, you want to have readily available samples of other students' work. You want to have videos, how-to videos, tutorials. You want links to useful content that they can use, templates, and so forth. It depends on the course or the training that you're doing, but you want to obviously give them supporting structure. And finally, you want to enable them to do some self-directed learning as necessary and when appropriate, and fade out that scaffolding and hopefully have students teaching other students. And if you're doing this all right, if you have them sort of in a peer-to-peer environment where everybody's been sort of trained up, then they can work on their own and even start to share with each other better ways to do things, tips and tricks that they're using, and so forth. So I think this is all very helpful. So one aspect of scaffolding that's not, you can do scaffold learning without gamification, but I'm a huge fan of competency-based learning. So I want to test students' skills and abilities and knowledge based on what I'm asking them to learn. So I'm very competence-driven. I want them to be able to, for example, deliver a 5-minute presentation or a 2-minute pitch, but I'm going to give them everything that they need to be able to do that. Once they're able to do it, I might push them to improve on it, and I want to reward them along the way. And that's where some gameful andragogy, gameful pedagogy, gameful learning, however you want to describe it, is. But it's basically the idea of taking inspiration from well-designed games and placing it into the classroom. I have a screenshot here of Zwift, if you're not familiar with it, just to stick with the cycling analogy. It is a game that you can ride, on your trainer. It's kind of like Peloton. A lot of people know that one, but it's with your own bike. You're on usually an adaptive trainer, and you're riding in these virtual environments. But they have so many gamified elements to it that just keeps you wanting to ride. Maybe I'll do a video on that sometime in the future. But the idea here is, and it's based sort of on a couple of principles. One is self-determination theory. So it assumes that learners are intrinsically motivated. Adult learners usually are intrinsically motivated, and therefore if you give them choice or decision, they'll usually choose the right decision that's best for them. Also, you want to focus on competencies. You want them to do skills sort of practiced based learning so that you can actually measure their improvements and reward them for those improvements. And finally, you want to give them a sense of belonging. As already noted, the optimal environment is where peers are teaching other peers. So if you include students in the learning process early on, decenter yourself as an educator, most likely they will actually learn better from each other with some limitation. Of course, that's where the scaffolding comes in. And then finally, gameful learning, again, you're going to focus on those elements in your teaching or trainings. You want to create choice, you want to have fun, you want to create interactions, you want to offer rewards, and you want to use safe failure. Let me give you an example specifically from my course, the business and communication course that I teach, where I've sort of designed the course with these elements in mind from the macro perspective, but then I'll give you a specific assignment to focus on how I'm using this in assignments specifically. So first off, when the course was designed, it was pre-COVID and so forth, we designed it so that it would be a hybrid or fully online course. What I mean by fully online is that all students complete work on Tuesday, or before Tuesday, it's asynchronous here, but there's like short videos, how-tos, tutorials, a little bit of reading, some quizzes and so forth. Then you're going to do all of that material on a Tuesday, let's assume, and then they're going to come to class on Thursday if they're doing the hybrid. So we try to push students to complete work by a Tuesday, and everybody's on the same page then, literally, and then they come and do the in-lab section, which is the hybrid, or they can do work online. Now, what's great about this is that they will be doing similar but different things. So, for example, they might practice interviews one way online, but do it differently in lab. They might do some public speaking activities in class that will look different online. So the online students and the hybrid students or in-class students are doing slightly different things. So everybody does the same thing, but then have some variation. We give them choice when signing up to the class. Do you need that, interaction, or do you just want to do it fully online or have to do it fully online? So already designed into the course is this idea of choice. We also created a badging program. So you can see there's a couple of badges here, but we reward them along the way. If they complete the course, it can go towards a credential, a professional communicator credential. So they get a badge for the entire course that goes into a 3-badge series that can give them an ability to take an exam that proves their ability in interviewing, interpersonal communication, and business communication. If they do that, we give them the professional communicator credential. Within the course, we have a lot of badges, though. There's the sort of top speaker stuff, top Harvard Business Review writing, case analysis, all kinds of different sort of top awards. But then we also have rewards or badges for progress. So if a student starts off not writing so well, but shows significant improvement, they earn a badge for that. They collect enough badges, they get perks. Some of them, like you don't need to take this examination, you get a bonus on this assignment, and so on and so forth. Finally, how we structured the course is to sort of scaffold and build up along the way. In Unit 1, for example, we begin with emotional intelligence. Until COVID, we were one of the few courses in the department as well as the university doing this format. So students would come in a little bit stressed because they weren't comfortable or familiar with it. It might look like we have a lot of assignments, but all of the assignments are very short and they scaffold on each other. So they do one part of it and that builds into the second part of it, which then builds into the third part of it. But if you come in and you don't see that or know that, it looks like a lot of material. So what we do is we start with emotional intelligence, a highly important skill that employers want, and we teach students to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. At the end of this unit, we test them with a Harvard business case study. We look for them to sort of this 2-page case study where they read it and they look at what's going well and what's not going well from an emotional intelligence point of view, and they do a 1-page write-up, which we give very specific instructions on and even an example of how to write it so they can't fail. Now, what we're really doing is collecting a writing sample, which then leads into Unit 2, where we cover business writing. In this unit, we cover things like how to basically do grammar, punctuation, style. So some of your grammar school stuff, and some students initially complain that it seems elementary, but we show them that, hey, look at your first sample now and go back and re-edit it and improve upon it for review. A second assignment we do there is we have them write an outline. So they should have already taken a public speaking class, but we remind them, we show them tutorials on how to outline well, and then we have them do an outline. So once they have that outline, it gets into the third unit, which is public speaking. And rather than have them deliver an entire speech, we have a couple of criteria we're really looking for, which is a little bit more advanced, and that's the use of figures of speech in their writing, as well as how to use vocal variety. So what we do is we say, choose a 450-word section of what you already wrote, this 8-minute presentation. You're not going to actually speak. You're going to choose 450 words, just one little section of it. You're going to add a couple of figures of speech. You're going to practice vocal variety, pitch, tone, intonation, all of those things, and you're going to record a 2-minute segment. And you're going to submit that, and we're going to evaluate you for that. So we actually sort of elevate now where they were after a public speaking class to a higher level, but not overwhelming them. And then finally, we get into the job search, and as part of this, we have them do some pitches and so forth. But we have one assignment sort of in the middle ground between the public speaking and the job search, which we like to do, and that is the Ignite Talk. Before I get to that, though, let me just highlight again the ways in which we are using scaffolding in the course. Again, micro lessons and tutorials, short 2-minute to 10-minute videos, all curated, 30-minute lectures, not all at once, but in total of all the videos with some practice elements. We use a platform called PlayPosit. I will put a link in the description to that. Great product. I will do some future videos on how I use it. But what's great about it is you can take a video, you can contextualize information with pauses, give contextual information to students, like a teacher sort of overlooking the students, explaining things. What's going to come up in this video is really important. Pay attention. Or you might hear this word, this is what it means, and actually can guide students through videos. It also can pause and do testing, sort of quizzes, polls, discussions, really dynamic platform. We use that, and this is great for students. We give students choice, not only when they sign up for the class, but at every assignment. Usually there's some kind of choice, whether it's the choice of topic. In some cases, we have no requirement. You can talk about anything, even though it's a business class. If you want to talk about something else, feel free to do so. We give them choice on assignments. For example, during the last unit, we have students who basically can choose between doing interview practice, or they can do a webinar and talk about best strategies for interviewing. So whatever their preference is, whatever they want to push themselves to learn, they get choice in the assignment. As I noted, very short writing assignments. We're very objective and competency focused. Often we do sufficient or insufficient grading. An example of this is if a student scores an 85% or higher on an assignment, they get the A. Until that point, they can revise and resubmit. They can stop at any time if they're satisfied with the grade. Let's say they have a C and they don't want to go for the 85%. They can stop at any time. So we give a lot of that. The sufficient, insufficient comes in handy with one assignment, which I will explain in a minute. But this revise and resubmit really hones the skills, but also makes students more comfortable in that they're not going to fail immediately. We have safe failure built in. And of course, we have a variety of competitions and awards for students. Let me give you an example of all of that through one assignment, the Ignite Talk. If you're not familiar with Ignite Talks, these are presentations started in Seattle back in the day by Scott Birkin. Basically, they are 5-minute exactly timed presentations where slides auto-advance every 15 seconds, which creates a kind of unnerving aspect, especially if you're not comfortable with public speaking. But we're really looking for 3 things. 1 is good slide design. 2 is the ability to record in PowerPoint. And 3rd is that you can present from memory. And as long as a student does all of that, they get a sufficient, they pass, they're done, they're all good. If they don't do well on one aspect, let's say the slide design's off, we just have them fix a couple of slides to show us that they understand the principles of what we're teaching in the course. Let's dive a little bit deeper then in how we get students prepared for this. We have them very early on start to watch actual Ignite Talks, how to present Ignite Talks. We cover how to record in PowerPoint. We give them all of the little things that they need in order to succeed. We let them choose their topic. We have students who talk about, why the Cubs are the best baseball team, and then why the White Sox are the best baseball team, and they get a little competition going on. But it's really great for them to be able to present in this format, but we build up to it. We just don't throw them into it. And I think that's really what's important. Now we have a lot of competition in this assignment. We actually start with usually about 60 students. After the recordings, we eliminate, so everybody watches. We sort of randomly assign students. They don't watch 60 presentations. They watch about 3 in this early on, and they vote and rank. Instructors vote and rank. Teaching assistants vote and rank. And eventually we get down to 4 groups in a bracket, usually with a wide ranging of topics, which is sort of what you're going for. And some students might not want to be in this competitive mode, so they might opt out, which is a choice that they have. Again, it's their sort of preference. But then we get them into a competition. From the top 20, we do another round of voting. They can resubmit their, if they want to sort of improve or didn't do so well in their first recording. And basically, it motivates them to continue to improve. Once they do that, they might get into the top 8. If they're in the top 8, they get a badge for that, but also they get the opportunity to present live in the classroom. And when they present live, then we have some more voting, and ultimately down to the top person. The top 2 are usually selected to speak at our annual Ignite Talk event or biannual Ignite Talk event if we have it. And that's essentially where it's community-based, and we have a series of Ignite Talks for the evening. So it's a lot of fun and competition, and students really get into this assignment. Even though initially they're a little reluctant, they're like, why is this important? We explain to them that we've seen it at conferences, we know they do it in workplaces, so it can be quite exciting. But I think at the end of the day, they feel very accomplished when they actually see that they can memorize a 5-minute presentation and present using good slides. So what elements of gameful learning are we using and scaffolding and so forth? Well, the first thing is you can speak on any topic, so they have choice. We offer an opportunity for continuous improvement. We give that safe failure. We give them choice along the way in terms of whether to present live or not. They have that choice. Some students have public speaking anxiety, and really this assignment is not about presenting live, right? So we're aware of what's the competency we're aiming for. It's not live presentation. its good slide design, its memorization, and its use of PowerPoint features. Finally, we have some competition, and the great sense is that students have a sense of belonging by voting on each other, sharing ideas, getting in that competitive spirit, especially when topics sort of like duel, and they have a lot of fun with that. Okay, so if you're interested, pause the video, take a look at these references, or reach out to me. Happy to send you the list of them, and you can learn more about scaffolding, gameful pedagogy, and so forth through these links. Finally, reach out to me, connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, subscribe to this channel. I will be doing more videos just like this one. All right, I know that video was a little lengthy, but if you've stuck around this far, you must have liked what I'm saying, so go ahead and hit that like button, get this video in front of more folks. If you haven't already done so and you're interested in learning more about how I actually design some of the assignments, looking at assignment prompts, looking at the rubrics, looking at play pause and how you can use that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the future videos on these topics. And I hope that whatever project you might be working on in your workflow, if it's giving you a hard time, just always remember to trust the process. And I look forward to seeing you in a future video where I share more tips on improving the efficiency and effectiveness of your communication or training. Take care.